Great. Like mentioned, I'm Nitesh, and this is a work in collaboration with a couple of folks. Jeongwon, who's a postdoc at University of Notre Dame. He, who is a PhD student at Penn State. Chi, who used to be at Penn State and is now at Tsinghua, and finally me at Google DeepMind and New York University. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here because of travel restrictions. Ooh. Know what's going on over here. So I'm presenting it, but definitely massive kudos to the authors here. It's a very long title. I'm trying to break it down in the next 8-ish minutes. Really, what we're doing is we're looking at SNAP benefit systems. For those who do not know, SNAP benefits are administrative benefits given to folks for nutritional assistance. Those who cannot afford, government provides that support to them. As you can see, it's a multi-step process, and each part of this process is basically an opportunity to help these folks because currently these are challenges for the SNAP benefit seekers. And some of the challenges include psychological burdens, learning burdens, and compliance burdens. There are many more, but this is what the literature has shown already. And we'll focus on these three. So as you can see, that seeking SNAP benefits is not that easy. Benefit seeker has to manage these burdens throughout the entire flow of the process. When it comes to AI, we also know that there is lots of literature about trust in AI and how much people trust and how well they trust, what kind of AI they trust, has an impact on how they interact with the system, and that in turn affects the burdens related to that administration system. So we have some kind of knowledge there as well. Most of the work that is related to trust in AI has happened outside of SNAP benefit administration systems or administrative systems in general. So we're trying to bring together this massive literature in trust in AI and also SNAP benefit systems and see how does that work. So in particular, there's 3 kinds of trusts that have been studied in the past. There's the benevolence trust, which is essentially AI having good intentions for users' best interests. Then there's the competence trust that AI will actually be able to perform the task well. And finally, there's the integrity trust that when it performs a task, it will do it fairly. All of this work, again, comes from past literature in trust in AI, and I would encourage you to read it a little bit more. Fine. So far we have discussed SNAP benefit systems, we have discussed trust in AI, and lots of burdens in that process. Let's bring it all together for the study that we are discussing now. So, in the SNAP process, we focused on these 2 particular challenging parts because past research through survey methods have shown these are the primary opportunities where people kind of fall off this SNAP benefit seeking process. This is where people get stuck in the funnel and they never make it through to the rest. So really, these are critical areas and we can really help people here. These are finding eligibility criteria. Am I even eligible? What is the criteria? One of the big challenges is that it keeps on changing. It's jurisdictional, so it changes by the region. It's also temporal. It changes with different governments. It changes with different times. People have to keep up with all of that. And as you can see, there are lots of burdens there. Then finally, once you've realized that you're eligible, you now have to go through the process of filling out the paperwork. And most of the SNAP benefit seekers, they don't particularly enjoy it. But let me be real, it's not just about enjoyment, it's about knowing how to do that paperwork, and they're far removed from having the knowledge to do it well. Bringing it together with the trust in AI, we looked at LLM assistants in particular, where we designed an LLM assistant that could help you identify if you're meeting the eligibility criteria, or once you've met it, how do you apply for the benefit? How do you fill out the paperwork? So we created an assistant, and then we used that assistant as a vehicle to understand the relationship between trust and also the administrative burdens. All right. So this is a multi-method research program where we had 10 participants. All of them were required to either be a recipient or an applicant who has been rejected at least once from a SNAP benefit application in the last 2 years. And the reason is once you've gone through that entire process and have been rejected, you can kind of understand how to use a benefit assistance system and give us feedback on some of the challenges and opportunities. It's a little bit diverse group, primarily, obviously, on the lower socioeconomic status side. It's only 10 participants, but I do want to point out that it's incredibly hard to find people who have been rejected and are publicly willing to volunteer to participate in a study because it is an incredibly embarrassing situation. And so if you plan to work with this kind of community, I would encourage you to be thinking about their mental well-being even more because it's a very, very critical need for them. Here's what the research process looked like. We conducted interviews where we tried to understand the challenges with the current process that helped us draw out the process a little bit, the experience with the caseworkers, people who make the decisions, whether they should get the benefit or not. And then, as I mentioned, we used a SNAP LLM assistant, which we designed as a way to poke to see how bringing in AI would change their behavior, would change their trust, would help them reflect on the trust that they already have in AI, and what would they expect from an administrative benefit system. Now, while we're in the middle of this process of creating this assistant, there's been already news that some parts of the world have already started using LLM assistants or chatbots, perhaps, in administrative systems to either help with some of these steps or to help mitigate some of the challenges that come with these steps. So while we're in the middle of our research, people had already started deploying this work, deploying such kind of technologies. So people also had a little bit of, they had heard through the grapevine that this is what's going on, and they were able to reflect on it. For more details on how we build the assistant, please do look at the paper. I don't have the time to go into that, but let me get this summary. In particular, I'll focus on the new burdens that were introduced when you introduce the LLM assistant in this critical need. Let's start with some of the relationship between trust. Low benevolence trust. Remember when people have very limited trust in AI doing the right job, being empathetic. So one of the participants said AI might be more likely to deny people instead of saying they're doing something fraudulent, right? So that's really low trust. And that impacts the psychological burden because now participants are really scared that this might lead to a stricter AI. Another variant of low benevolence trust is it felt like it will be more meaningful when we take it to a person because then there won't be a loss of human touch. Because this worry that AI lacks empathy and the ability to advocate like human caseworkers, increasing feelings of dehumanization. On the converse, let's look at when the trust is high in integrity, right? That the AI is neutral, AI will do the job well. This perception that AI will be neutral leads to decrease in psychological burden because then they can go and reach out to the AI and actually help make AI help them do the job. On the other hand, you could also have varying levels of integrity trust. You could either have high or low, but it comes through signals. And so it leads to a little bit of learning burden in participants because now they have to identify who is operating the system because that changes the amount of integrity trust that they have. There's also varying competence trust because it depends on who is actually performing the task. So they have to sometimes do the double checking. Finally, some of the high-level discussion points included that if you have low benevolence trust, you need to design LLMs with empathy because the amount of trust has an impact on the amount of burdens. And you do want to increase perceived accompaniment, perceived fairness, and calibrate for empathetic elements, but neither create over-trust or under-trust. And finally, we support human AI benefit systems that are working in tandem with each other because we know that AI could be perceived neutral, but it could also be perceived to be unfair. So it'd be great to have the systems come together that kind of check each other's fairness. And for more details, please go check out the paper or reach out to Jeongwon. Thank you.